Have you ever had the feeling that you are facing struggles that no one else understands? As if, no matter how hard you try to explain, the people around you simply cannot see the depth of what you are experiencing. Maybe you think this is bad luck, or karma, or even punishment. But what if I told you that this could be a sign? There is a type of person who was not made to live on the surface. People who, from an early age, carry a different sensitivity, a restlessness that the world cannot calm. These people, even without knowing it, are undergoing a kind of invisible shaping. Life tests them, cutting away excess, revealing the truth behind the masks. They face losses without explanation, long silences, painful new beginnings, but they keep going. Even when tired, they keep going. These people are the chosen ones. And no, I am not talking about something mystical, unattainable, or fantastical. I am talking about you, about me, about those who feel they are being prepared for something they do not yet fully understand. Being chosen has nothing to do with being better than others. It has to do with being called to a deeper mission, and for that reason, more difficult. The chosen ones do not have an easy life. They face internal battles while the outside world thinks everything is fine. They feel everything more intensely, and yet they move forward. In this video, I will show you the 7 most intense challenges that only the chosen ones can endure. And I am not talking about pretty metaphors or self-help phrases. I am talking about real, painful, transformative experiences. And if you recognize any of these tests in your own journey, you might be closer to your purpose than you think. But before we continue, I sincerely invite you. If this content stirs something inside you, if it gives you that shiver of, "This is me," follow the channel. Not because it's trendy, but because here we communicate with those who feel, with those who live intensely, with the chosen ones. Now, take a deep breath, and let's begin. This is the kind of challenge that no one chooses to go through willingly. It arrives without warning, in those moments when everything falls apart. When what you were doing no longer makes sense. When the people around you start to distance themselves. When certainties disappear. And the internal silence starts to scream. It is at this point that the world loses its power over you. The titles, the roles, the compliments, the likes. None of this sustains you anymore. It becomes clear that you have spent too much time living outwardly, trying to fit into molds that were not made for your soul. And then, the question arises, who are you without any of this? Most people feel this call and run. They distract themselves with work, social media, empty relationships. They prefer not to look within because they know it will hurt. That they will encounter open wounds, hidden parts, choices made out of fear and not truth. But the chosen ones can no longer escape. They feel that the time has come. Even with fear, they stop. They face the mirror of their soul, and what they see there is not pretty at first. It is not illuminated or magical. It is raw. It is a tired face from fighting to be accepted. A heart bruised from trying so hard to be what was expected of it. A soul hungry for truth. The chosen one does not seek a character. They seek the essence. They no longer want to please. They want to live with purpose. And for that, they must face everything that comes with self-knowledge. Shame, guilt, regret, anger. It is a deep dive where you cannot bring baggage. Only those who have courage will go. In this process, much begins to unravel. Masks fall. Friendships drift apart. Old plans lose their meaning. But gradually, something begins to emerge. Not something new, but something that has always been there and was ignored. Your truth. It comes whispering, shy at first, then clearer, and you begin to remember who you are. Being chosen is this. It is not receiving a special gift. It is accepting the call to be true in a world that rewards lies. It is deciding that inner peace is worth more than external approval. It is preferring to walk alone than to live surrounded by falsehood. This challenge has no set time. It can happen at 20 or at 60. It can be triggered by a loss, a crisis, an illness, or simply an unexplainable emptiness. But when it comes, it changes everything. Because once you see who you really are, you can no longer pretend. The chosen one understands that the pain of facing oneself is less than the pain of continuing to pretend. And that's why they move forward. With tears in their eyes, but with a light soul. With doubts, but with more courage. Because now they are no longer lost. They are returning home, to themselves. Maybe you're going through this right now. Maybe you have felt that you no longer fit into the roles that were given to you. And if that's the case, don't be scared. This is not the end. It is just the beginning of a journey that few have the courage to follow. Only the chosen ones face this kind of pain, but they are precisely the ones who reap the truth that sets them free. Being alone is one of the subtlest yet most intense tests that a chosen one faces. It is not just about being without company. It is about being with oneself, without distractions, without noise, with no one to validate what you feel. And this, surprisingly, is scarier than solitude itself. At first, it seems like life is being cruel. Friends disappear, invitations dwindle, conversations become shallow or cease altogether. The connections that once filled you become strange, and you start to wonder if you did something wrong. But this emptiness, in fact, is space being created. Space for you to listen to yourself. The world is made to keep us busy. We are always surrounded by voices, noises, notifications, opinions, all to avoid hearing what lives inside. Because when silence arrives, it brings everything you tried to hide. Old traumas, unresolved fears, muffled truths. But the chosen one can no longer ignore this. They feel something calling them inward. And even without fully understanding, they respond. At first, it is uncomfortable. It feels like time slows down. Boredom becomes a mirror. The mind screams for distraction. But over time, silence begins to speak. And what it says, no one else could say. It reveals wounds, but also shows paths. It brings memories, but delivers answers. It is in silence that intuition awakens, that the soul whispers what the world's noise has always drowned out. It is in this intimate space that the connection with the divine strengthens. The chosen one learns to appreciate this stillness. They discover that they do not need to fill all the spaces, that their presence is enough, that peace does not come from outside, but from the harmony between what they feel and what they live. And this changes everything. Few can endure this test because it requires patience. It demands trust, and it requires surrender. But those who go through it never feel truly alone again, because they understand that their own company can be sacred, that there is a strength inside that does not depend on anyone else. This phase is not about forced isolation. It is about reconnection. It is when you learn to listen to yourself without judgment, when your soul ceases to be a strange place and becomes home, when silence stops being uncomfortable and transforms into refuge. It is not easy to reach this point. But when you do, something in you changes permanently. You become whole. And being whole is the first step towards living with truth. It is in this silence that the chosen ones find themselves again. Few things hurt more than realizing that something or someone you loved no longer makes sense in your life. But this is one of the strongest tests that the chosen ones face. Letting go. Not because they want to, but because they feel that they can no longer hold on. because what once was a part of them now weighs heavy, and it no longer fits into what the soul is becoming. Letting go is not simply giving up. It is looking at what has brought you here and recognizing that its mission has already been fulfilled. It could be a friendship, a relationship, a job, an old plan. Things that you held on to with effort, affection, and faith. But today, they only exist out of attachment. And attachment, no matter how comfortable it seems, traps. The souls of the chosen do not accept living in captivity. They feel when it is time to move on, even when the heart is still involved, even when there is no plan B. Because the inner call begins to grow louder, and ignoring this call hurts more than the grief itself. This type of farewell is silent. There are no closing parties, and there isn't always a goodbye spoken aloud. Sometimes it's just a natural distancing, a separation that hurts but makes sense. You realize that it is not abandonment. It is liberation, a necessary cut for something greater to bloom. The chosen understand deep down that carrying what has already died inside is not loyalty. It is a setback. That insisting on holding on to what life has already tried to take is disrespecting oneself. And that true love, no matter how deep it is, sometimes shows itself in the act of letting go. This process is not quick. It comes in waves. There are days when you feel light, certain of your decision. On others, the longing tightens, doubts arise, and the desire to return grows. But something inside you has already changed. You have understood that the path is forward, that holding on is being trapped, and that letting go is making space. The chosen learn, through pain, that detachment is an act of faith. Faith that something better is coming. Faith that everything which is true remains, and what leaves has in fact long since departed. It was just occupying space. Sometimes the soul needs to walk more lightly, and for that, some weights must be left by the side of the road. Not because they were bad, but because the journey requires new baggage, new people, new purposes. And this only arrives when you create space. Letting go hurts, but standing still hurts more. And the chosen were made to walk, even with sore feet. This challenge is not about giving up. It's about trusting that life knows what it is doing, that everything that moves away has a reason, and that everything that is truly yours finds its way back, without forcing, without begging. The chosen do not let go out of weakness. They let go because they know that growing requires lightness, and those who are stuck in the past cannot embrace the new. So if you feel that it is time to let something go, do not resist. What lies on the other side may be exactly what your soul has been asking for all along. There are moments in life when nothing seems to make sense. You wake up, breathe, but feel empty inside. What once gave you strength no longer sustains you. Faith weakens, hope fades, and what remains is a dark, almost suffocating silence. This is the moment that many avoid at all costs. But the chosen, they move through it. This phase is known by many names, but among those who awaken, it is called the dark night of the soul. It is not just sadness, it is an internal collapse. It feels as if the ground has disappeared, and you fall within yourself endlessly without direction. Nothing holds you, nothing pushes you. Everything seems to crumble. It is common to think that this moment is a punishment, that God has forgotten you, that the universe has turned its back on you. But this is just the illusion of pain. In truth, what is happening is a deep cleansing. Everything that was a lie is being ripped away. Everything that was false is being burned. What remains is the essence, raw, real, indestructible. The chosen go through this, some more than once. And each time they pass through, they come out more aware, lighter, stronger. Not because everything gets better on the outside, but because inside, something is reborn, a spark, a whisper of truth, a silent certainty that, even in the darkness, there is purpose. During this phase, many things may crumble. Relationships end, paths change, the body feels it, the mind locks up, the soul cries. But even amid the chaos, the chosen continues. They stumble, but they do not stop. Because deep down, even without being able to explain it, they feel that they are being transformed. The dark night does not come to destroy you. It comes to strip you bare. It comes to show you that you are not what you lost, nor what is left behind. You are what remains. And what remains is strong. It is light. Even if it still seems like shadow right now, the chosen understand that pain is not the end. It is only a passage, the bridge between who they were and who they need to become. And for that reason, they do not run away. They feel, they accept. And when they least expect it, a crack opens. A discreet light crosses the darkness. And there, rebirth begins. If you are in this phase now, breathe. You are not broken. You are being shaped. Do not give up. The greatest awakenings happen after the greatest falls, and only the chosen can endure this crossing. Faith is easy when everything is going well, when answers come quickly, when signs are clear, when the path seems illuminated. But the true test happens when all of that disappears. When the road darkens, the signs fade away, and silence is the only answer that life gives you. This is the test of faith, not the faith that is taught, repeated, or memorized, but the faith that is felt, the kind that arises when you have tried everything and still haven't found a way out, when the mind says to stop, but the heart insists on continuing, not for logic, but for something deeper, a hunch, an old memory, a formless certainty. The chosen ones are brought to this point, and when they arrive there, they face an invisible choice, to trust or to give up. Even without proof, even without guarantees, even without understanding why things are the way they are. It is at this moment that the soul is tested. Doubt appears. It always appears. And that's okay. Having faith doesn't mean never doubting. It means continuing, even with doubt walking beside you. It is getting up not knowing if the ground will hold. It is taking the next step with a tight heart, but with hope lit, even if weak. The chosen one understands that faith is not about control. It is about surrender. It is not about understanding everything now. It is about believing that ahead, everything will make sense. Even if today everything seems like a big question mark. Faith is trusting that there is a purpose, even when the present feels empty. In this process, the soul expands, because it is there in the dark that it learns to listen to intuition. It learns to hear the invisible. It learns to walk with the eyes of the soul, not with the eyes of reason. And that transforms everything. Faith is not a switch that you turn on. It is built gradually, in small decisions. When you choose to believe, even when tired. When you continue, even without strength. When you give thanks, even without having received. It is these small choices that shape the souls of the chosen. During this test, the world may call you crazy. It may say that you are dreaming too much, that it is time to be realistic. But you feel, even if you cannot explain it, that you are being guided, that something greater is leading you, and you follow. The chosen one does not need proof, they need peace. And their peace comes when they decide to trust, not blindly, but consciously. Trusting because the heart spoke louder, because the pain taught, because the soul awakened. Faith is not passivity. It is movement with courage. It is doing your part even when the results have not yet appeared. It is planting even without seeing the sun. It is taking care of the seed even when the soil seems dry. This test is silent. Sometimes, no one sees that you are going through it, but God sees. The universe feels. And every step you take in this phase counts. Every tear shed in prayer changes something inside. Because it is in the invisible that the greatest transformations happen. If you are living this test now, know this. Trusting without understanding is not weakness. It is strength. It is courage. And that is exactly what distinguishes the chosen ones. They do not need to have all the answers. They just need to keep believing that life is guiding everything with wisdom. We grow up believing that we need to control everything. The right timing of things, the results, the behavior of others, even our own feelings. We were taught that strength is about having mastery, that success is planning, that security lies in control. But there comes a moment in life when all of this crumbles, and the chosen ones know exactly how that feels. This is the moment of surrender. It is when you realize that no matter how hard you fight, some things are simply not in your hands. That forcing doesn't help. That planning to a certain extent assists, but there are greater forces that you do not command. And that is when the pain of letting go of control emerges. Surrender is not giving up. It is not throwing everything up in the air. It is understanding that there is a flow, that there is an intelligence in life that knows the way, even when you do not understand the route. The chosen ones are put in front of this test several times. And each time it's like jumping into the dark, not knowing if there's a net. The hard part is that the ego screams. It wants to know. It wants guarantees. It wants to control the timing, the result, the ending. But the soul whispers something else. Surrender. Let it flow. Trust. And this conflict between what screams and what whispers is an internal battlefield. The chosen one feels this deeply. But little by little they learn. They learn that life is lighter when you do not try to dominate every step. They learn that when they let go, better things come. They learn that control is exhausting, and that surrender liberates. Letting go of control does not mean standing still. It means acting with faith, without anxiety. It is doing what you can, and leaving what you cannot in the hands of the invisible. It is walking with confidence, even when you do not see the destination. It is allowing the answers to come at the right time, and not at the time of fear. The chosen ones are guided, even when they do not perceive it. And this surrender is the turning point. When they let go, everything starts to align. Doors open. Situations resolve. The right people appear. Not by magic, but because the internal resistance has been overcome. This test demands humility. It requires patience. And it requires a quiet courage to accept that not everything needs to be controlled to work out. Those who let go, flow. Those who flow, live. And those who live this way begin to experience peace. If you are facing this challenge now, take a look. Where are you forcing things? What are you trying to control out of fear? It might be time to take a deep breath and let go. Life knows the way. And if you are being called to surrender, perhaps it is because something much greater is ready to happen. But only after you let go of the helm. Awakening is not a period at the end of a sentence. It is a rebirth. It is the beginning of a new way of walking. Now, with more truth, with more listening, with more silence between the words, and a strength that does not come from appearance, but from the connection to something greater. If you have made it this far, know this: the soul does not awaken by chance. It awakens because the time has come, because pain has fulfilled its role. And now, you can walk not just as someone who survives, but as someone who truly lives. The world needs awakened people. It needs you. And awakening, even if silent, illuminates everything in its path. Chosen one, if you have lived through any of these trials, do not think that you are broken. Think that you are being shaped. The tests are not a punishment. They are paths of refinement. Only those who traverse pain with faith discover light with truth. What has brought you here is not by chance. It was purpose. And if the path seems difficult, it is because you are being prepared for something greater. Now tell me, which of these challenges have you lived through? Leave it in the comments. Your story can be light for someone who is still in the middle of the process. And remember, being chosen is not about status. It is about courage. The courage to be who you really are. You.